The whole text has been completed. Heaven did not create me like Liu Yan. The dirt road is as eternal as the long night. Yan reminded you to connect to a good Wi-Fi. Prepare some chips. The completed work has begun. My wife Liu Yan has an art studio, but she has always forbidden me from entering. Today, she forgot to close the door. I finally had the opportunity to see what was inside. What I saw were all portraits of her male friend, Zhang Shui. But before I could look closely, Liu Yan's voice suddenly came from behind. Who allowed you to enter this room? Looking at Liu Yan, who showed no guilt, I truly felt speechless. I angrily pointed at the painting on the wall. I questioned her. Why was there no explanation? After all, these weren't just portraits of Zhang Shui alone. They were various intimate photos of the two of them. However, in the face of my accusation, Liu Yan was completely unconcerned. She even said I was being too petty. It's just some paintings, nothing more. It's actually me who disrespected her by entering her studio without permission. This was disrespecting her. Looking at Liu Yan's angry expression, I suddenly felt that all the love over these years was like an absurd joke. In this house, there are traces of their love everywhere. The photo in the center of the living room is not a wedding photo of me and Liu Yan, but rather a group photo of me, Liu Yan, and Zhang Shui. I would question this, but Liu Yan only said that he was her best friend. She wanted him to witness our love. Seeing that I didn't speak, Liu Yan also found it boring. After she ordered me never to enter her studio again, she quickly left the house. If it had been in the past, I would have been concerned and asked her where she was going. But now I no longer wanted to ask. Every time I inquired, Liu Yan would only brush me off. My heart was filled with frustration. I opened the window, hoping to get some fresh air, only to find Zhang Shui right across the street. At that moment, the two were surprisingly hugging each other intimately. He used to visit often, but I never suspected anything. It was my trust in Liu Yan. Now, looking back, I can only call myself foolish. Zhang Shui was holding a cup of milk tea in his hand. He took a sip, then handed it to Liu Yan. Liu Yan took it without hesitation, leaving a lipstick mark on the straw. Zhang Shui, following that red imprint, took another 6 sips. At that moment, Zhang Shui wrapped his arm around Liu Yan's waist. When he looked up, he noticed I was watching them. Surprisingly, he didn't panic. Instead, he even waved at me. Seeing this, I took out my phone, captured their moment, and sent it to Liu Yan. Then I turned off my phone. Tonight, Liu Yan wouldn't be coming back. It was the 10th anniversary of her and Zhang Shui's acquaintance. It had always been like this. She would leave early and return the next morning without any explanation. In Liu Yan's mind, she thought of me as her most loyal dog. Whatever she said, I would believe. But this time, it was different. This was the first time I caught them in their unreserved intimacy. I still turned my phone back on. I wanted to hear a reasonable explanation from Liu Yan, but as I was about to fall asleep, she sent me a message telling me to prepare breakfast for tomorrow morning. She didn't mention a word about the video or the studio incident. I was tired. Liu Yan shattered the last bit of hope I had. I decided to end our 10-year marriage. The next morning, the sound of knocking on the door woke me from my sleep. The constant knocks disturbed my rest. Liu Yan was shouting at me from the door, accusing me of daring to lock it from the inside. In the past, whenever Liu Yan told me when she would return, I would always make sure everything was ready, waiting by the door. This time, I waited for Liu Yan for a full 7.5 hours. After she came in, Liu Yan immediately furrowed her brows and looked at me. asking if I was throwing a tantrum because she didn't come home yesterday. At this point, Liu Ruyan still thought I was just sulking. I coldly questioned her. Do you really think that having a room full of Zhang Shuyi's paintings and that video is fine? Upon hearing this, Liu Ruyan's expression became slightly awkward, but she quickly rebutted. It's just a painting of him, nothing more. As for the video, it was just a joke between friends of the opposite sex. I was left speechless by Liu Ruyan's words. I didn't want to argue with her anymore. I turned and pushed the door open to leave. Liu Ruyan angrily shouted behind me, "If you walk out that door today, I'll never speak to you again." In the past, whenever Liu Ruyan said something like this, no matter what happened, I would always turn back and comfort her immediately. But this time, she miscalculated. I left without looking back. I picked up the guitar that had been sitting in the room for a long time and went to the place where I often played. I really loved music. Whenever I had free time, I would go to the bar to sing. But later, Liu Ruyan said she didn't like bars and that they were too chaotic, making it easy for me to go astray. To put her mind at ease, I stopped going there. When I sang on stage again, I felt somewhat out of place. Everyone was watching me, all immersed in the ocean of music. But halfway through the song, I spotted two familiar figures. Liu Ruyan, who always said that bars were bad, and that people who went to bars weren't good, was right there dancing with Zhang Shuyi in the dance floor. The two were close to each other, and Zhang Shuyi was whispering something into her ear. They were both laughing so happily. Looking back now, I can see how foolish I was. It wasn't that she thought the bar was bad. It was because she was afraid I would catch her and Zhang Shuyi going there all the time. By the time my performance ended, they hadn't left the bar. I stepped off the stage, holding a glass of wine, and walked over to Liu Ruyan's booth. "Beautiful lady," I said, "mind if I join you for a drink?" Before Liu Ruyan could answer, Zhang Shuyi spoke first, telling me to go away, not to disturb their fun. He thought I came over to hate on Liu Ruyan, but when the lights of the bar shone on us, both of them froze for a moment. However, Liu Ruyan quickly regained her composure and immediately questioned me, asking why I was here. "Didn't I promise you I wouldn't come to the bar again?" I was speechless. This woman truly took shamelessness to the extreme. She could come with Zhang Shuyi, but I wasn't allowed to? I simply took out my phone and casually opened the video I had just recorded. The expressions on their faces turned dark. The video showed them dancing closely together. What I didn't expect, however, was that the other people sitting nearby started mocking me. They asked if I had a screw loose. What's wrong with a couple being affectionate with each other? What does it have to do with you? Could it be that you're Liu Ruyan's admirer, and now you're throwing a tantrum because she rejected you? Hearing their words, Liu Ruyan seemed to gain some confidence. She stopped panicking and instead smugly said to them, "Yes, he is my admirer." Upon hearing this, the group burst into laughter, saying, "So it's just a loyal dog who's been chasing her all along." Listening to her words, it felt like a bucket of cold water was poured over me. I never imagined Liu Ruyan would deny my identity in front of so many people. I picked up the wine glass on the table and without hesitation, poured it over Liu Ruyan and Zhang Shuyi's heads. Immediately, Liu Ruyan exploded, cursing at me, asking if I had lost my mind, but I ignored her. I continued flipping through my phone gallery. I knew that just talking about it wouldn't convince them. I had to present evidence. Perhaps Liu Ruyan's friends would believe it. When Liu Ruyan saw what I was doing, she felt an inexplicable sense of unease. She leaned in close to my ear, warning me not to do anything reckless. I didn't respond. I left her booth and asked the DJ to add one more song to the set. No extra charge required. Liu Ruyan furrowed her brows. but her confidence led her to believe that I was only trying to impress her with my singing. She mouthed to me, "Now's the time to apologize." It was too late. I took the microphone and faced Liu Ruyan's direction, ready to perform. I decided to sing a song called Changing Affections for everyone. Hope you all enjoy it. Once the song ended, the crowd erupted in applause. I put the guitar down and smiled at the audience. "Please don't leave yet. I have a little surprise for you." Then I projected our wedding photo onto the big screen. The lighting team cooperated perfectly, shining the spotlight on Liu Ruyan. Holding the microphone, I grinned and said, "As you can see, the lady in front is my wife, Liu Ruyan." The friends who had just scolded me now looked uncomfortable. They began accusing Liu Ruyan of deceiving them. It seemed Liu Ruyan's friends weren't completely unreasonable after all. I didn't want to focus on what happened next. With mixed emotions, I picked up my guitar and walked out of the bar. The 10 years with Liu Ruyan came to an absolute end today. After sending the message about our divorce, I turned off my phone. The next day when I powered it on, it was filled with missed calls from Liu Ruyan. I was quite surprised. After all these years, I was finally getting this kind of attention. I didn't pick up the calls. I skimmed through a few of the texts. Some of them were even threats. So I sent her the time to pick up the divorce certificate. When I received the divorce certificate, I looked at Zhang Shuyi standing beside Liu Ruyan and couldn't make sense of it. If Liu Ruyan and Zhang Shuyi were in love, why not just be together? If they weren't in love, why the endless entanglement? Was it just some adult game of cat and mouse? Looking at their intimate appearance, I chuckled softly and turned to leave. After leaving Liu Ruyan, I could finally return to the arms of music. Every evening after work, I would listen to music, learning rhythm and finding joy in it. No longer did I have to serve Liu Ruyan like I used to. Today, like every other day, I grabbed my guitar, ready to head to the bar. But suddenly, a woman stopped me. I turned around and saw it was Liu Ruyan. She invited me to go to the bar with her. I immediately declined, saying it was inappropriate since I was her ex-husband. I was worried Zhang Shuyi might misunderstand. Liu Ruyan quickly explained that she just wanted to talk. We couldn't be a couple, but we could at least be friends, right? Hearing this, I turned to look at Liu Ruyan. A sneer curled at the corner of my mouth. "Friends? Is that the kind of friendship you mean? Like the one you have with Zhang Shuyi?" My barrage of questions left Liu Ruyan furious. She said she knew she was wrong. She was showing weakness, asking what more she needed to do. I picked up my guitar and walked away. I didn't care about Liu Ruyan's sour expression. After the divorce, Liu Ruyan and Zhang Shuyi still showed up at the bar from time to time. A few days ago, they could be all over each other right in front of me. But now, I was no longer part of the scene. Today, it seemed they had had an argument. Liu Ruyan came alone. I performed as usual and was about to leave, but Liu Ruyan blocked my way. She held out her phone to me. "Handsome, can I get your contact information?" The same scene, the same time. And it made me feel a strange sense of déjà vu. It was just like the first time we met. Liu Ruyan had stopped me at the bar door, asking for my contact details. She had said it was her first time at the bar, that she didn't like the atmosphere inside, so she made an excuse to slip out. She asked if I would walk with her. For a second, Liu Ruyan's voice came again. "Let's take a walk." But this time, my answer was entirely different. "I'm not interested," I said, turning to leave. But suddenly, Liu Ruyan rushed over and hugged me tightly. She cried out loudly, saying she didn't believe I could be so heartless. Not giving her any chance to explain, I darkened my expression and slowly pried her fingers off me. I gave you countless chances, I said. But she never cherished any of it. Upon hearing this, Liu Ruyan didn't give up. She begged for just one more chance to explain herself. Her eyes were full of pleading. When she hugged me, her hands felt rough. She wasn't living well. But I remained unmoved. When I stayed silent, Liu Ruyan thought I had agreed. She started babbling on, saying painting was her way of recording life. And every time Zhang Shuyi gave her creative inspiration, she said she painted him. She just didn't want me to misunderstand, and that was why she didn't let me enter the studio. Her explanation was weak and hollow. So just because it was for inspiration, she thought it was fine to be completely uninhibited with him, not considering my feelings at all. When she saw I didn't believe her, Liu Ruyan grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go. She said it was art. There was nothing more to it. I couldn't help but laugh coldly. If I wrote a song for another woman and told you it was for art, would you believe that? Her lips trembled slightly, and she was speechless. She could only watch as I walked away. I have to admit, the bar is the place with the fastest information flow. No need to ask. I soon learned why Liu Ruyan's hands had become so rough. It turned out after our divorce, she and Zhang Shuyi became even more involved. They played the game with a flair. Eventually, Liu Ruyan carelessly leaked their private photos, and in an instant, Zhang Shuyi lost his temper. Although it was a mutual decision between them, but Zhang Shuyi blamed everything on Liu Ruyan. In the end, not only did he hit her, but he also forced her to take a cold shower. At that moment, I understood. No wonder Liu Ruyan suddenly came to find me. It turned out that Zhang Shuyi had been treating her badly. Meanwhile, during my time singing at the bar, I gradually regained some of my former fame. I even received an invitation to a music event. Though it was a free performance, I was still pleasantly surprised. I prepared to head to the music festival and stopped caring about Liu Ruyan's issues. Tonight, I would perform my new song. There were quite a few people in the audience, but few of them actually knew me. With the strum of the guitar, my performance officially began. At first, the audience was indifferent, but gradually they were drawn in by my melody. They sank into the enjoyment of the music. Just then, a sudden voice rang out. "Ziqian, you're amazing! Ziqian, keep going!" My expression immediately darkened. This was a classical piece, not some kind of rock or electronic music. Liu Ruyan's shout completely ruined the atmosphere, but she didn't seem to realize anything was wrong. Instead, she thought her outfit had dazzled everyone, and she kept shouting louder. When the song finally ended, I coldly stared at her and said, "What are you doing here? Do you realize that because of your stupidity, you ruined my performance?" Facing my accusations, she looked at me with a wrong expression. She asked if I really hated her that much. She just wanted to cheer me on, nothing more. If it had been anyone else, I definitely wouldn't have said those things. But now I was genuinely tired of Liu Ruyan. I didn't want to be tangled up in her anymore. I pushed her away and walked off. A few days later, I was at home, looking at my phone, when I came across a news article. Liu Ruyan had actually organized 7 free art exhibitions, inviting everyone to come. My hand paused for a moment, because Liu Ruyan had always liked to hold exhibitions, letting everyone come for free. But those had mostly been about plants and flowers. This time, she said she was going to showcase portrait paintings. It must be Zhang Shuyi, who had beaten her so badly, yet they managed to reconcile. She was using an art exhibition to commemorate their love. That was true love, it seemed. I turned off the news channel. But just a second later, I received a message from a college friend. They asked if I was going to the exhibition. They joked that maybe the portrait she was showing was of me. Seeing that, I couldn't help but laugh. In 10 years together, She never painted a portrait of me. Now that we were divorced, she was painting my portrait. My college friend went silent. A few days later, Liu Ruyan's exhibition finally opened. She had even broadcasted 7 sessions live. This video was conveniently pushed to me with the caption, "Your friend is also watching." The screen showed her art exhibition, and there weren't too many people there. But the people in the paintings left me stunned. It wasn't Zhang Shuyi, it was me. At that moment, Liu Ruyan was speaking to the live stream. She said she was really sorry that after so many years with me, she had only painted a few pieces of art. It was clear that these were the paintings she had recently created, mostly in cartoonish or sketchy styles, the kind that could be done in a short amount of time. Meanwhile, Zhang Shuyi's works were all detailed, full-body portraits, half-body sketches, and once colored, they were clearly more intricate, taking a lot of time to complete. They were on a completely different level compared to mine, and Liu Ruyan was acting all sentimental about it. I glanced at it for a moment, but didn't bother watching any further. Before long, it would be the day I released my first album. As I listened to music late into the night, my college friend messaged me, telling me that Liu Ruyan's live stream account had gained a little popularity. I frowned and opened the link they sent me. The screen showed Liu Ruyan, her face pale. With an almost crying expression, she said that separating from me was unavoidable. And now she missed me so much. She hoped I would give our marriage another chance. Even more ridiculous was that some people, out of sympathy, were amazed by Liu Ruyan's deep feelings and decided to follow her. Over time, viewers expressed sympathy, calling her feelings sincere. And some even tried to dig into my identity, hoping to fight for Liu Ruyan's honor. I couldn't help but feel speechless. The internet is full of gossipers, hearing the wind and taking it for truth.v. No wonder nowadays there are so many scripts just riding on the wave of hype. But I stand firm and have no fear of shadowy accusations. I'm not afraid of it at all. But I never expected that. The next morning, Liu Ruyan came to my doorstep. She said she knew I wanted to release a new album. She wanted to help me fulfill my musical dreams. She could help me achieve this dream of mine. Listening to Liu Ruyan's words, I furrowed my brows. My intuition told me it wasn't a good thing. Sure enough, the next moment, she revealed, "Yesterday, I went live and gained a lot of followers, you know? As long as you remarry me, all that traffic will be yours." Watching her speak so passionately, I immediately rejected her offer. Liu Ruyan, who had been so smug moments ago, was now frozen in place. The next second, her expression changed. She began to threaten me. She said someone had already dug up my identity. If I didn't remarry her, they would start an online attack against me. At that point, forget about my music dreams. My whole life would be affected. I said nothing more, turned around and slammed the door shut. A few days later, my identity was indeed exposed. They couldn't find me, but they came after my music posts, insulting me directly. At this moment, Liu Ruyan's message arrived. She said as long as I agreed to remarry her, all the online bullying would disappear. I ignored her. The next day, when I went to get in my car, not only was the window smashed, but they also pasted labels on it, all calling me a scumbag. At that moment, just then, Liu Ruyan's call came through. She said if I didn't remarry her soon, they might start threatening my personal safety. I didn't say a word and hung up the phone immediately. Then I contacted the police. I also requested the nearby surveillance footage. The police acted quickly. Before long, they had caught the person. When caught, that person looked at me sternly and said a scumbag like me would eventually face retribution. I took out the evidence of Liu Ruyan's affair and placed it in front of him. I made him see whose fault this really was. The internet isn't a lawless place. And don't listen to rumors without facts. The person's face turned pale with fear. He immediately started apologizing to me. He watched the video, and his eyes were filled with hatred. From here on, Liu Ryan was likely to face the consequences. When the heat from Liu Ryan's video reached its peak, I uploaded the evidence of her affair to the internet. Then I bought trending search traffic. In an instant, public opinion shifted. The loudest voices were from those who had originally defended Liu Ryan, especially the ones who had smashed my car. He said he had never seen someone turn right and wrong so completely upside down. She had cheated. But now she was playing the victim, trying to garner sympathy. I used this urge in attention to release my new album. In no time, the album's traffic soared to unprecedented heights. Even the bar where I performed raised my performance fee. Liu Ryan called me over and over, but I didn't pick up a single one of her calls. She came to my door, but I didn't even give her a chance to enter. Eventually, the noise online grew louder and louder. Some even went to her doorstep, waiting for her to come out, throwing rotten eggs at her. Liu Ryan had no choice but to retreat from the internet and apologize. She deactivated her accounts. Gradually, the situation calmed down. The internet users were most enraged by how Liu Ryan had toyed with them. Later, Liu Ryan gradually disappeared from the scene. I never heard from her again. Over a decade later, I went to perform at a music festival. By then, quite a few people already recognized me. They had heard my name. Some even came running to me. When the performance ended, the crowd erupted in thunderous applause. At the F7 stage, there was even someone who asked for my autograph. I quickly signed it and was about to hand it over to her. But then I realized the photo she had wasn't one of me now. In fact, it looked like one from my university days. Back then, I had no fame, no fans. Anyone who had a photo of me from that time must have been someone I knew. I looked up at the person, but she was wrapped up so tightly, with a 4-year-old child in her arms. There was also another child beside her. She wore a face mask, as if she didn't want me to know who she was. She grabbed the autograph and was about to leave. I didn't stop her, but just at that moment, a strong gust of wind blew by, and the wind blew her face mask away. I froze. Her face was scarred, full of pits and uneven skin. There wasn't a single piece of unblemished flesh. But when I saw the ring on her hand, it hit me like a flash of realization. It was Liu Ryan. That ring was one we had custom made together. It had both of our names engraved on it. You're Liu Ryan. I couldn't believe you could still recognize me. This time, Liu Ryan pulled off her face mask. The scars on her face were even more pronounced. It was clear she had been through something truly horrific. The two children screamed in terror. Liu Ryan hurried to comfort them. Seeing I hadn't said anything, she continued speaking. Look at me now, ... I'm not doing well at all. It turned out that the person who had smashed my car had held a grudge against Liu Ryan for using him as a pawn. In a fit of rage, he had sat outside her door and threw a basin of sulfuric acid right into her face. She suffered severe burns over large areas. Liu Ryan was still wearing thin clothing at the time. Her arms were covered in burn marks. Even though she rushed to the hospital immediately, nothing could prevent the disfigurement. After her face was ruined, Liu Ryan called the police. The man was arrested. But her face, it could never be the same. The way Zhang Shuyi saw it, Liu Ryan's disfigurement made him hurriedly push her away. He feared she would latch onto him. Her ruined face made finding work impossible. Her artistic skills were only average at best. She used to draw for herself, but if she tried to make a career out of it, no one would be willing to pay for it. With no support left, Liu Ryan returned to her family home in defeat. But there was no longer a place for her there. Her parents had already had a son. They doted on him endlessly. Liu Ryan had become the person everyone despised. Her only value was doing chores and running errands. But even that, they had no qualms about criticizing her for. Then in a neighboring village, an old bachelor who had never been able to marry took notice. After a discussion between Liu Ryan's parents, they decided that since Liu Ryan was idle anyway, it would be better for her to marry the old bachelor for a dowry. But when the old bachelor saw Liu Ryan's disfigured face and learned she had already been married, he immediately refused. In the end, Liu Ryan's parents convinced him, saying Liu Ryan was good at taking care of things, and promised that within a year, she would give him a healthy son. The old bachelor reluctantly agreed. Liu Ryan wanted to resist, but her phone was taken away by her mother. She had no savings, no job, and no place to go. In the end, with no other choice, she married the old bachelor. Every day, she stared at the ceiling. She worked before dawn and worked late into the night. She had to do all the chores for the old bachelor, and still he would scold her. He said that if she didn't have a few children soon, he would return her. Liu Ryan's tears fell freely. She had once been praised by countless people as a goddess. Now she was being treated as nothing more than a tool for reproduction. When the old bachelor saw Liu Ryan crying, he became even angrier. "What are you crying for? My luck is running out because of you." He said this as he slapped her across the face. This kind of life went on day after day. Many times, Liu Ryan had thought about ending it all, but every time she failed, and the old bachelor would find out and beat her even harder. Her face, her body burned with pain. It felt like being crushed under a wheel. Meanwhile, the old bachelor went about it like it was a task to complete, without a shred of tenderness. Under such harsh conditions, in less than a year, Liu Ryan gave birth to a child, but it was a girl. Her miserable days didn't end. The old bachelor demanded that she give him a boy, even though she was only carrying two children with her now. At home, there was still another infant waiting to be fed. This trip to the music festival was the first chance she'd had in a long time. It was hard to come by. As she spoke, Liu Ryan started crying again. But she quickly wiped away her tears and looked at me. Although I felt a little sorry for her situation, I knew that none of this had anything to do with me. It was all her own doing. She had brought it all upon herself. When I didn't respond, Liu Ryan seemed like she wanted to say something else, but then her phone rang. However, Liu Ryan didn't want to answer this call. Perhaps fearing she'd get beaten when she returned, she finally picked up. The moment she answered, there was a loud voice questioning her. "What's going on? Why aren't you answering my calls? Don't tell me you're off looking for a man, are you? I'm telling you now. You better come back quickly, or when you get back, I'll give you a good thrashing." Liu Ryan didn't dare to argue with the old bachelor's words. She just nodded and said okay. She said she would come back with the kids after finishing her shopping. If this had happened before, anyone who dared speak to Liu Ryan like this, I would have already given them a slap across the head. But sadly, things are different now. I'm no longer that Shin Kekson who deeply loved Liu Ryan. I love life. I love music. But I no longer love Liu Ryan. After hanging up the phone, Liu Ryan forced a smile. She apologized to me, saying I must have thought it was a joke. It seemed like today we wouldn't have the chance to catch up, and we probably wouldn't see each other again. Goodbye. After saying this, Liu Ryan once again put on her mask, holding a child in her arms. She walked away in the distance. I watched her retreating figure. My expression was complicated. It was hard for me to connect the Liu Ryan from 10 years ago with the one in front of me now. Whether it was the Liu Ryan from school or the one I was with, she was always full of spirit. When did she fall into such a pitiful state? Her daily life now was nothing but taking care of kids and doing housework, being the punching bag for everyone around her. I shook my head. Walking in the completely opposite direction from Liu Ryan, I watched the light gradually approach me. It wouldn't be long now, until the day my new song is released. It's time for me to get ready.